Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Tuesday Cruiser Chat with Otram. Same as always, no real agenda tonight. Whatever you guys want to talk about, whatever questions you have. Let's see, news this week. We had good turnout for Capital Land Cruiser Club Tech Day at the shop over the weekend. Long day, but a lot of fun. I actually got my Forerunner running because I was thinking about possibly taking it to Fall Crawl this weekend since the Shady 80 is not going to be ready. But we couldn't get the Forerunner to run consistently enough that I thought it would be okay to take wheeling. But we got Crash's Forerunner running well enough that Crash is going to take my driver's slot for Fall Crawl this coming weekend. So it looks like I'm going to go up Thursday evening, and Crash is coming up Friday morning to hang out there. So that'll be fun. Got the bottom end of the turbo truck all together. You know, got the timing chain, timing cover, oil pump, water pump, the turbo drain, all that jazz put together. So that's coming along. Still waiting on the head to come back from the machine shop, but at least we're slightly moving forwards on that. Shot a little bit of video on doing the oil return while I had the pan off. But yeah, I think that's all that's really new. Hey Victor, how's it going? Yeah, not much new and exciting. Trying to think if there's anything else cool going on, but yeah, I think, right now it's just regular old jobs. We did a drive shaft on a Tundra today, which was not exciting. Crash did an AHC delete on a 100 series. Again, not very exciting. So yeah, nothing super fancy going on at the shop right now. How's it going, Huff? Just trying to get a couple of trucks out before we leave later this week for Fall Crawl. And then getting everything ready to have fun at Fall Crawl. But yeah, I haven't been to Fall Crawl in a couple of years. And it's nice because it's back semi-local to us. It's only like an hour away this year. So it should be fun. But yeah, that's all I can think of for new and exciting news at the shop. So whatever questions you guys have. Oh, and I'm running my first 10K this weekend, so I may be dead for chat next week, but I should be fine. I'm just hoping the weather stays clear. I went out and tried to beat the rain for a run at lunch and ended up getting drenched. Stainless exhaust progress. That is a good question. I got the test bends back from the mandrel bending shop for the 80 series and the FJ62. They're only going to be able to bend like the tailpipe sections for me. Like the front parts are tighter bends than the mandrel bender will do, so I'm going to have to keep doing those the way I've been doing them. They did the test bends in 409 stainless, and I'd prefer to have the exhaust done out of 304. So I'm still talking to them back and forth about getting the tailpipes done in 304 so that everything matches. So it's coming along. It's just coming along slower than I thought. I'm gonna fixture I'm going to do the fixtures for the new tailpipes and 80 series. At the beginning, I was saying I got the block and the timing chain and timing cover and all that jazz put together at the end of last week. And I got the Wits End oil return fitting installed on the oil pan while I had it off. But that's about as far as I've gotten because I'm still waiting on the head to come back from the machine shop from getting decked. No real mods to the block. We're going to use a Cometic all-metal head gasket and ARP head studs. But beyond that, it's a stock block, and it'll be a stock head. And awesome. I did not realize the shirt link was broken. I'll have to see what I can do about fixing that. Although I've been talking to a new guy who's doing like all the I Hate Mud merchandise, and he did the Capital Land Cruiser stuff for Fall Crawl. I think I'm going to switch to having him do our shirts and stickers and patches and all that jazz, so that they'll be a little bit nicer looking since, I did the graphics on the current ones, and, this guy's a professional merchandise guy. So I'll turn everything over to him. But yeah, I'll have to see about getting the current t-shirt link fixed. But beyond that, I should have a new link shortly that will be more better stuff. And what are my thoughts on early 2000s Sequoia compared with early or the same year's Land Cruisers with the same V8? The Sequoia seems lighter built than the 100 series. But I'm going brain dead. It seems lighter built. We don't see that many of them, so I don't have a lot of comparison on them. It's probably been a couple of years since I've had a Sequoia in the shop. And thoughts on suspension offerings. It depends on vehicle and what you're going for. Old Man Emu's been the tried and true standard. Their stuff is really nice. The Icon stuff is also really nice. We haven't done nearly as much of the Icon as we have Old Man Emu, but everything we've done of theirs has been really nice. So yeah, either one's nice. The Slinky stuff is really nice, although I'm not sure anybody's bringing that into the States right now. And as far as taking the dust shield off on the front of 62s and 60s to go straight from the caliper to the hard line, we generally don't. The backing plate is, from what I understand, it's there to help with keeping the brake from warping, because you've got the wheel blocking airflow from one side of the rotor. You need to balance it with a backing plate on the other so that the rotor sees even cooling. If you remove the backing plate, you remove the restriction of airflow on one side, which makes could make the rotor warp. You can always just leave the brake junction on the backing plate and not use it and go straight from the caliper to the axle to get rid of the little junctions and the little rotor or knuckle hose. With light trails in Baja, we don't have that terrain around here but I'm not for sure. But I know, like, my 4Runner, after I coil sprung it on whooped fire roads, I could overheat regular shocks pretty quickly. Something like the Icon stuff might dissipate heat faster. If you're going to do lots of high speed whoops. But yeah, either would likely be fine, especially for light wheeling. And I guess I should add, we have done the backing plate delete when they were just so haggard and rusty that they were more holes than backing plate. But generally we try to keep it, to keep the rotors happy. And the rest of the 80 series question hasn't popped up yet. So I'll see what the rest of that is. I guess while we're waiting on the rest to come in, I'll just say, without having hands on it, it's really hard to tell anything about running condition from an engine. Pulling, engine codes, if there are any, is going to be your best bet to start any kind of diagnosing. And it depends on how many miles they've got on them. We see a bunch of 80s come through, and they all seem to have a little bit of misfire at idle. Some more than others. We don't see many that are, like, bad. We'd be like, oh, this one's idling horrible. But yeah, without laying hands on it, it's really hard to say. I'd start with the obvious stuff like checking spark plug wires, cap, distributor cap and rotor, stuff like that. Make sure the ignition's in good shape. I haven't seen an idle air control valve on a 1FZ go bad yet. It's possible, but I haven't seen one fail. We've seen the throttle position sensors, go out of adjustment. Lots of spark plug wire, spark plug, cap and rotor issues. Dirty fuel injectors, could do the same thing. But yeah, without going through it, it's hard to say. And yeah, the 5-gallon buckets of gear oil, if you're going to go through quite a bit of it, it's way cheaper to buy it in the bucket than buy the quarts. And hey, how's it going, Bodan? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Um, 100 series tick from driver side wheel at very low speed. Um, we've seen quite a few on the 100 series and the 80 series. The parking brake pads have little spring clips that hold them in there, and quite often, especially when it's aftermarket rebuild kits, they don't fit quite tight, and the little spring caps will fall off, and you'll hear it flopping around and ticking inside the parking brake drum. That would be my first guess, just based on how many times we've seen it happen. Beyond that, like a rock stuck in the rotor, something like that. But yeah, I would look for loose parts in the bottom of the parking brake drum. Anyway, easy way to check to see if a timing belt was changed. Most shops will put a sticker under the hood, with the date they changed it. Like, we usually stick them on the airbox. Beyond that, it's really hard to tell. You could pull, like, one of the upper covers off and look at the belt, but that's not really going to tell you much, because we've seen belts that have gone 200,000 miles, and, just looking at them, they look pretty decent, when you just look at them through the cover. Once you tear it all down, it's like the water pump and the idlers that usually show more wear when they haven't been changed than the belt itself. So yeah, there's not really a definitive way to tell, if you don't have any records of it having been done. Have I been able to see any of the 80 series JDM Land Cruisers to see the condition? We've seen a couple, ranging from really, really showroom stock looking clean, to less pristine but still in good shape. And on the 80 series ones at least, we haven't seen much rust. I've seen a couple of 70 series, older ones that came over from Japan, and they were really, really crunchy. The 80 series, at least, I think we've only seen probably 2 or 3 of them come through. They've been pretty clean. I don't know if they don't use salt as much as we do, or if the ones we've seen came from an area that doesn't see snow. But yeah, the 80 series ones we've seen so far have been clean. The 70 series were kind of rusty. And we've seen a couple of 70s come through from the United Arab Emirates, and they were super clean also. So yeah, we haven't seen many, but the couple we've seen haven't been bad. I'd much rather have, like a JDM truck than something that came up from like South and Central America. The southern trucks have just been butchered, at least the ones we've seen. You need to go out? I don't know what the dogs are tracking out there, but it's pouring rain, and they're running around the backyard like crazy. There is very, very little progress on the shop truck. we've been just so swamped lately that I haven't had the time to work on it. I had signed up for fall crawl months ago, figuring I'd have plenty of time to get the shop truck ready to go wheeling, and that just turned out to be not the case at all. And we went to plan B of trying to get my pumpkin, my 4Runner buggy running over Tech Day. And we got it running, which it hasn't run in well over a year. But it wouldn't stay running reliably enough that I thought we should take it four-wheeling. So we got Crash's 4Runner going as plan C. So yeah, no progress on the shop truck. I'm hoping maybe over the winter I'll be able to get it going. I built the prototype for the new stainless exhaust built it on the shop truck, so it will finally have exhaust once I finish doing the jigs. But yeah, that's about the only progress lately. And on initial startup on a reman or using any kind of break-in oil. Yes, we usually use, it's like Gibbs Racing. I think it's Gibbs Racing just 5W30 break-in oil. And I've had good luck with it. I actually just ordered another case. Ordered another case of it for the turbo truck to break in. I don't know that all of the JDM trucks had lockers. The ones we've seen, I think they all have, but I'm not positive that they all did come with them. What manual do I refer to in my 4.7 timing belt video? We've got, I subscribe to Toyota Information Service. It's TIS. We subscribe to that, so I'm using the factory manuals. If you get the ASIN timing belt kit, it comes with a manual for doing the timing belt. That's really good, and for the most part seems to be taken straight out of the factory manual. So before we had Toyota Information, we were using the ASIN timing belt manuals. But the factory service manual, is your best bet for, exact information. And there's a couple of places online, you can find them as PDF if you do some Googling. But we subscribe to Toyota because we use it every day. So we pay them for it, so we get the most up-to-date info. Oh, and glad the 80 knuckle video was helpful. And I'm not sure, Victor, which project truck you're talking about. We've done a couple of different ones with front lockers. And to Stan, I would not buy a Patronax if somebody was paying me to. They seem to have changed their manufacturing process, and whatever robot or whatever they're using that takes the thing out of the assembly is nicking the wires as they come out of the little control module. And the new ones, we've had them last as little as an hour, or a couple of days. And and you keep putting Patronax in, it'll run great, and then it won't start. Yeah, so Patronax absolutely sucks unless they've changed recently, but I will never go back to using them. I have not done the FJ60 conversion. I've heard it works well, but I haven't done it. We generally just use the DUI distributors. They seem to be an easy drop-in and work well, and it's an easy one-wire hookup. As far as timing marks on the 4.7s, your best bet is to, find an online manual, or, if you get the ASIN kit, it breaks it down by year. So you can look it up for each year range. But yeah, I can never keep it straight. I've got to look it up each time. And I don't remember what year the one I did in the video was. I want to say it was a 99 or 2000, but I'm not positive. So really, your best bet's going to be having the actual manual, for the proper year, or at the very least the ASIN manual, because it breaks it down. Leak from the radiator area on 100 series. I would drain it and flush it and get that sealer crap out of the system. It never works for fixing leaks. And it usually ends up clogging up small coolant passages. Like, it'll clog up your radiator, your heater core, cooling passages, stuff like that. Even the ones that claim that they don't clog up the cooling system, it's made to stop a leak. So it's gonna clog things, because that's how it stops leaks. Although it never actually works. And an O1 should be red coolant. Which is good, because the pink coolant seems to eat radiators and water pumps. Like, we almost never see red coolant trucks, leaking at timing belt changes. But we almost always see pink coolant trucks leaking. But yeah, I think pink came out, it was 04, 05. Somewhere in that neighborhood. And we'll generally, because sometimes we'll get earlier trucks in that have already been swapped to pink, like they got changed at the dealer and the dealer filled them with pink. So we'll continue on with pink in those, rather than flushing it out and switching them backwards to red. But yeah, the earlier hundreds are red. Yeah, I don't know that I was a ton of help with that one. But yeah, sealer is bad juju. Whew. Throwing a rod and a busted crank, or both, and a hole in the block is never a good day. I'm trying to think. I haven't seen the 4.7 version of it, but we have seen the 4.5 from an 80 series from Jarkko, and I'll type that in there. I think that's how you spell it, Jarkko remanufactured engines. And the 4.5 we got from them was really nice. And, like, a lot of times when you get, like, a Jasper engine or, some other generic rebuild, they come with, generic aftermarket gaskets and stuff like that. The Jarkko had, an Asen water pump on it, came with a Toyota gasket set, and just looked really well done. And based on the parts we could see on the outside and the gasket set it came with, I would assume they also used high quality parts on the inside. But yeah, so Jarkko would be my recommendation if you're going reman. Otherwise, you could go, like salvage engine. We've had horrible luck with them lately. And I don't think I'm ever going to do a salvage engine at the shop again. Just because we've had so many issues with used motors. I think, if we put anything in now, it's either going to be new short block or new, or reman, from like Jarkko. And factory short block for 5K doesn't seem bad. I haven't torn down a 4.7 yet, so I don't know how bad it is to do the heads on them. I have had the oil pans, oil pump, and that stuff off, and it wasn't terrible. And I would think doing heads on the stand, wouldn't be bad. Since you have to pull the engine anyway, I wouldn't think doing heads on a stand would be terrible. But yeah, we got 2 used engines in a row that were junk. And of course you don't find that out until you've installed them and you have it running. And then you realize there's issues, and then you get to pull everything back out again. So yeah, it's not fun. So I would shy away from a used engine unless it came from somebody like, you knew and trusted, and you knew that the engine ran fine before it got pulled. Which I don't know where you're at, but we've seen a bunch of trucks coming down from north of us with completely rotten frames, but low mileage and the engines are still good. So northeast, you might find, a rotted out truck that still had a good motor. So you may get lucky that way, but I think, either a full reman or a short block, would be the way to go. And I want to say the Jarkko reman was around 6K. So not terrible. Okay, in Bay Area, California, you probably don't have a ample supply of rotten trucks to get motors from. And I have not pulled the VVTi cams out of a 4.7 yet. Be interested to see how that goes. Adding trans fluid to an 0600 series sucks. You've got to, you're gonna need a scan tool to be able to read the transmission temperature, because I want to say you end up checking fluid level when the trans fluid's at like 118 degrees. And then the fill plug is up on top of the trans, not on top, but like on the top side, up above the exhaust and the drive shaft. And I'm trying to think. I think it's Mighty Vac that sells it. You can buy an adapter that'll thread into the fill port that you can then pump the fluid up in, rather than try to, rig up hoses and stuff to squirt it in there. But yeah, it's a craptastic job. And you never get it right the first time. So you end up, adding fluid. It's not right. You go back to it. You have to wait for it to warm back up to 118 degrees after you add more fluid. Yeah, just not a real fun job. And I'm not sure why they designed it that way. Yeah, 11K using a new short block out the door, that doesn't seem bad. Because that's about what we're doing a 80 series 4 or 5 for here. And I'll bet you parts on the 100 series, ends up being more expensive. So yeah, that does not seem bad at all. And I tried to put the Amazon link in for the Mighty Vac filler, and it's four characters too long. So maybe try that and see if it'll get you close enough. Yeah. Okay, shortening it up does work. Yeah, 11K does not seem bad for that job at all. Yeah, the Mighty Vac adapter, it may not make it sense, to do it once, but it does make it quite a bit easier. P0401 on an 80 series. It can be the EGR modulator. It can be the vacuum switching valve that's under the intake. It can be, there's a little vacuum pipe that goes through the upper intake that gets clogged up, and then there's 2 ports on the throttle body that get clogged up. And I guess it could also be the temp sensor on the back of the intake, although we haven't seen that one be a problem yet. Yeah, it's fun to chase that one down. Yeah, the P0401 can be fun. And on the 1FZ, we're doing new Toyota short block, rebuild the head, all the gasket seals, timing belt, or not timing belt, timing chain, all that jazz, the sprockets, new timing cover, oil pump, water pump, and then removal and install. Power steering pump stays the same. So yeah, a lot of it's labor, and a lot of it is the short block. And if we replace the front axles, I'm assuming you mean like the axle shafts themselves. It depends on what you're going to do with it. If it's a stock on the street truck, we'll use factory Toyota inner axle shafts and aftermarket Burfields. If it's something that's going to get wheeled, and abused, we'll use RCVs. It just depends on what you're going to do with it. The intake, you don't need to... Well, if you're going to change the vacuum switching valve, you got to pull it because it's up underneath. The little pipe that clogs up on the intake itself, you can actually just take the vacuum line off the back of the intake and, feed small drill bit, welding wire, something like that through there to unclog it. Just be careful because it's real easy, if it's clogged, once you break through the clog, to poke through and knock the hose off the underside. And then it's a whole lot of fun to fish that hose back onto the nipple underneath without pulling the intake. And then the other two clogs are in the throttle body. And we usually end up taking the throttle body off and stripping off the idle air control valve and the throttle position sensor and putting it in an ultrasonic to break up the clogs in the little 90-degree pipes. I have no thoughts on towing a 4,000-pound RV trailer with a straight six Land Cruiser. I've never towed anything, so I have absolutely no experience with towing. I can't imagine it would be a lot of fun, but that's just a guess. I don't have any actual experience doing it. Oh, full front axles on 100 series. I use the Toyota ones. They are much more expensive, but they hold up much, much better. Like the aftermarket ones are way cheaper, but, they last like a year, maybe two. And then the boots are shot on them. Where the Toyota ones, lasted 10 to 15 years. So they seem to, it seems to be much money more well spent getting the Toyota ones. They're a lot higher quality than the aftermarket. And on the back of the intake, you'll see like a little hose that comes off the modulator on the driver's side, and it just kind of goes and bends down into the top of the intake. It's the pipe that little hose hooks to. And can I recommend a brake rotor that doesn't warp? I can't. They all warp. We've had the best luck with the factory Toyota ones. They seem to be the least prone to warping. I've been trying EBC rotors lately, but I don't have a long enough track record on those to know for sure whether or not they're warp prone. So far, so good. And no, it's not the bottom of the modulator. It's the one, like when it comes out of the modulator, there's a little metal T or a little metal pipe that it hooks to. It's the one that comes off the driver's side of the little pipe and goes to another little pipe on the back of the intake. Like, it's the only brake line at the top back of the intake. Or only little one. I would stay drum brake on the rear of a 40. You know, as long as you can get parts reasonably. You're not gonna gain a ton from disc brake conversion. At least not from what we've seen. You know, they work a little bit better if you're running in mud and you don't end up having to adjust them like you do the drum brakes. But there's not a huge advantage to stopping power, swapping to it. You're fine. Yeah, usually when we do the rear disc brake conversion, it's because I couldn't find wheel cylinders anymore. But it seems like Cruiser Outfitters is stocking all the weird, hard-to-find wheel cylinders now, so that's less of a problem. If you do decide to go rear disc brake conversion, do not get the kit from JT Outfitters. It does not fit. You'll end up grinding and switching things around, and their brake lines just don't fit. So yeah, that would be my recommendation there. And their front disc brake conversion is absolutely terrible. Rebuilt Denso for a 97-80 series. Nope, nothing hard. It's two 17mm bolts and I think a 12mm bolt on the battery terminal, maybe 14. But super easy install. You can reach everything. Yeah, it's the 80 series starter is one of the more easily accessible ones. And awesome. Glad you dig the timing belt videos. Yeah, we're looking for another tech and trying to find somebody that fits in with the shop culture and isn't going to hack things. Hasn't been easy. Cool, yeah. Yeah, whenever you come down to drop the 40 off, just let me know what the questions are and we can go over it. I've done a 1-inch body lift on an 80 series. Well, we did a 1-inch body lift on an 80 series at the shop. Crash actually did more of it than I did. And I don't remember, anything being difficult or out of the ordinary. The only thing I can remember on that one is the kit the guy got, all of the body mount bolts that got supplied with the kit were shorter than the stock ones instead of longer. So we had to go out and find We had to go out and find longer bolts. And I'm not sure. I don't remember what we did with lowering the radiator down. I want to say I just re-drilled the core support, but I'm not positive. It's been a couple years since we did it. On a 9680 series with an ABS pump code, I don't have any suggestions. Luckily or not luckily, whichever way you want to look at it, I have yet to have to fix any ABS related issues on an 80 series other than ABS sensors being either dirty or the wiring to them cut. Yeah, I don't have any experience messing with the ABS on them. Trying to think. Yeah, I mean, you may want to look through, like, Google whatever ABS code is coming up, and see what the troubleshooting is, because it might be something simple, like a relay or a fuse, or it could be something much more involved. And I can't imagine that modulator assembly is cheap from the dealer. I've never priced one, but it's probably pretty expensive. I'd be inclined, to at least figure out what the actual code is. Because it is the brake system. So, I can't really say leave it alone. Because that could be really bad if it failed in a way that, compromised the brakes. And I know guys have gone through and deleted the ABS, the entire system, and basically switched it to be more like the early 80 series. But we haven't actually done the delete at the shop. But yeah, it's hard to say because I've never messed with the ABS system on an 80. The only thing we've run into is dirty sensors or cut sensor wires, which have been really straightforward fixes. You clean the sensors or or replace the cut wiring. But yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I think the only other weird 80 series ABS problem we had one where one of the lines, like the actual ABS solenoids, was clogged. We ended up being able to blow that one backwards and get it unclogged and flowing again. And 40 gas tank under passenger seat seems sketchy. Is there a better place for it? Not easily. There used to be, I think it was Confer, used to make a tank that went under the rear of the truck, like under the floorboards. But you had to, cut in a new panel to put a new filler back there. So it wasn't a super easy proposition to put it in. And I don't know, Long Range Automotive may make a tank that goes back there, but I don't know. But otherwise, not really. There's just not, they're not provisioned to have it anywhere else, so there's not an easy solution. And I haven't done a brake booster on a 94. I would assume that it, would be the same as a 95 to 97 since the intakes are the same. And I've got, we've got a video on doing the booster, and it's basically unbolt the master from it, and you can kind of pull the master forwards a little bit, unbolt the booster from the inside, undo the brake pedal, and I want to say the throttle cable bracket, you loosen that up and drop it off to the side, and it takes some wiggling and some Tetris action, but the booster will come out of the hole. It's just not fun. Like, it looks like the intake has to come off, but we've yet to have one where the intake had to come off to get the booster out. It just takes some creative wiggling to get it out of the hole. Yeah, and to Stan, there's definitely not a cheap, easy way to move the gas tank. And, honestly, it's as long as the tank's not leaking, there's no real issue with it being, inside the truck. You're not going to hit it on rocks. They've been going for 50 years that way, without incident. And even when they do leak, there's a drain under them, like a drain hole. So unless it's leaking copious amounts, it's still decently safe. You'd want to get it fixed if it was leaking. But we drive around in lots of 40s, and I've never really worried about blowing up in one. Oh, well, I guess if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here a couple minutes early so I can get dinner started and get the dogs fed because they are pacing at my feet waiting for their dinner. Yeah, breather and vent in the tank or in the cab is that's not great. That would be sketchy. But anyway, yeah, so I'm going to sign off of here. Actually, I'm going to read this last question that came in. We see lots of the 4.7s at 300 and 400,000 miles. As long as you keep up with maintenance, they seem to go forever. It seems to be a really good motor and really long-lasting. Okay, so now I'm signing off. So I'm going to sign off for the evening. Thanks to everybody that tuned in. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe below. If you really dig chat and the YouTube videos, check out our Patreon link down in the description. We always appreciate the support. And I will catch you guys next Tuesday, same time, same place. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you later.